My husband's family called me the Maid. So I fired them from their own company. I had never felt so small in my life. The sun cut through the tall windows of the Harrington mansion and bounced off the silver trays. Glasses chimed. Laughter filled the room like warm steam. I stood in the middle of it all holding a tray of champagne, breath shaking, heart pounding, and I had just learned how sharp a smile could be when it was used as armor. Gloria Harrington, my mother-in-law, flicked her wrist like I was a servant. "Be a dear and serve the guests some champagne," she said so everyone could hear. Her voice was clean and sharp. The whole table laughed. My own new cousins leaned back in their chairs, their jewelry catching the light. Daniel watched. He did not move. He did not say a word to stop her. I had been Elena Cruz for 29 years. I had worked hard. I had run a small operations team. I had saved, studied, and dreamed. But at that moment, in that house dripping with silk and carved wood, I was only the maid in their eyes. The label landed on me like a wet cloth. It made me cough, but I kept my smile. People pointed at me and said jokes like gifts. "Our maid who married up," someone said near the piano. They clinked glasses like it was a toast. I felt the tray cut into my palm, but I kept serving. I moved around the room like a ghost learned to walk among the living. Each laugh felt like a small stone thrown at me. Daniel's silence was heavier than the stones. I wanted to say something sharp. I wanted to throw the tray and smash the crystal and run. Instead, I bowed my head and said nothing. I gave another flute to a laughing ant. I heard my voice in my head, small and broken. I set the last glass down and mouthed, "Please," like a prayer. Inside, a slow and hot fire began. I would not leave this as I was. I would not let them believe I had no power. Hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. The next morning the house smelled like fresh coffee and lemon. I woke to the soft clink of forks and the sound of voices drifting through the hall. Daniel had an early meeting, or so he said, but Gloria was up and ready. I kept to myself in the guest room. My hands still trembled from last night, and my cheeks burned from the memory. I told myself to breathe. The mansion looked kinder in the morning light, but the kindness was a costume. I patted down the wide staircase, my slippers whispering on the steps. Gloria was in the kitchen with two women I did not know. Their laughter was light and cruel at the same time. I stood near the pantry, pretending not to listen, but their words sliced right through the thin paper of my calm. "She cleans up nicely, literally," Gloria said loud enough for me to hear. The woman beside her mimicked, smoothing a dress. They all laughed. I felt the laugh inside my chest turn into something sharp. Tears rolled down my face without asking permission. I wiped them away with the heel of my hand, so no one would see. I had learned to hide. I found the courage then, a small hard thing that lived where fear used to sit. I stepped into the kitchen and said, "I won't always be the one cleaning up your messes." My voice shook like a violin string. For a moment the room froze. The laughter stopped. Gloria turned and gave me a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Honey," she said, sweet and cold, "you don't have a power to say that." Her voice was soft like syrup, meant to cover the bitter taste. Daniel walked in then, tie loose, and looked at me like I had broken something fragile. He did not defend me. He just watched. I should have left then. I should have walked out and never come back. But I stayed. I let the day move over me while the seed of a plan waited to be watered in the dark. I held on to that small courage and told myself I would make it grow. I found the company file by accident. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Daniel asked me to sort through a stack of his mail. He had left for a meeting and tossed a heavy manila envelope on the hall table. I thought it was only bills or invites. The house smelled of roses and stale perfume. The envelope's edge was crisp and urgent. Inside was a company memo I had no business reading. "Urgent, financial review required," the bold letter said. My fingers froze over the paper. I knew a lot about operations. I had worked with budgets, timelines, and people who were burned out and scared. My thumb traced the letterhead, Harrington Interiors. I had heard the name all my life, learned how to pronounce it with respect when I first met Daniel's family. Now the paper in my hands had no respect. It had a warning. They were months away from bankruptcy. The rows of numbers read like a secret language of falling fortunes. Projects delayed. Suppliers unpaid. Payroll flagged. My stomach rolled like a boat in a storm. The same family who pointed at me and called me names pretended to have a flawless empire, but I held a crumpled piece of proof showing the truth. A memory flipped through my mind like an old photograph of my past life, spreadsheets, operation meetings, emergency plans drafted at midnight. The skill that had been my pride was still inside me. I had not lost it by marrying into a family who wore crowns of wealth like theater props. The discovery was dangerous and sweet. I folded the memo and put it back like I had never seen it. But the seed of revenge stirred. I felt something awaken inside me, a plan that wanted to rise and right every wrong handed to me like a plate to hold. I would learn their weakness. I would not let them laugh when my name changed to a joke. Dinner that night was sharper than knives. The dining room smelled of roasted meat and polished silver. Gloria sat at the head of the table like a queen on a stage. The cousins were loud and bright and full of jokes. Daniel had a polite half-smile and a glass of wine. I felt like I was acting in a play where I had not learned my lines. During the second course, Gloria leaned over and said loud and clear, "Elena, why don't you come and clear these plates? You could finally be useful for once." Her words were like a spotlight. I felt everyone's eyes slide to me. Laughter bubbled like a cruel fountain. I moved my chair back slowly, though it's scraping like a warning. I wanted so badly to shout. I wanted to spill wine and call them what they were. But I left the table instead. I walked out through the French doors into the night, the garden sounding like soft applause behind me. I pressed my hands to my face and let the tears come at last. I did not want them to see me break. I wanted them to never know how close I had come to falling apart. I stood in front of the guest room mirror. My reflection looked tired and small. I touched my face. "Never again," I said out loud to the empty room. The words tasted like iron and resolve. I took a deep breath and made a small promise. I would not be the person they thought I was. I would not be the one washing their plates and taking their jokes. Later that night, when the house slept and the chandeliers glowed like distant stars, I sat on the bed and opened a notebook. I wrote down every name, every slight, every laugh. I began to map out what they'd shown me, their pride, their blind spots, the ragged edges of the Harrington Empire. It felt like learning a new language. That language would be my tool. The day I found the envelope marked urgent, company in debt, was the day I saw the truth. I had been helping Daniel with mail again because he asked, and because habits are hard to break. The envelope was heavy and thick like a secret that refused to be quiet. When I opened it, the numbers inside were cold and sharp. They had been hiding it. The board minutes were sanitized for guests and glossy brochures. But the raw documents showed missed payments to vendors, loans coming due, and a line that said, "Immediate action required, risk of default." My hands went numb as I read. The Harrington name, the proud crest painted on every ballroom wall of the mansion, sat over a company that was bleeding. I felt the room tilt. This was the hollow under their shine. I remembered all the tiny ways I had been dismissed. The jokes at brunch, the way Gloria had pushed me to serve, the way Daniel swallowed his words. I realized then why they had been so cruel. They needed someone to make them look better, someone to blame if things fell apart. I sat down at the kitchen table, and for the first time since marrying in, I let fear and anger sit in me at the same time. Fear was a hot stone. Anger was a sharp blade. I folded the papers carefully and slipped them into my bag as if I were taking a map home. Later that night, Daniel came in late. He laughed at something on his phone. I watched him through the doorway and saw how easy his life seemed when he did not look at the wreck in his hands. I wanted to tell him everything then, to make him see. But I did not. I kept quiet. I needed time. I needed to be careful. I had a plan forming then, slow as a tide. I was no longer only a wife in a mansion. I had skills and a seat of power tucked under my ribs. I would use what they had ignored as my weapon. Their laugh would not be my fate. I sat at the long glass table in the sunroom, the one that looked over the garden full of white roses, and tried to steady my breath. I had spent the whole night thinking about the company papers hidden in my purse. Numbers had danced behind my eyes while Daniel slept easy beside me. By morning, I knew I had to try something different. I needed to test the waters, even if the water was cold. At breakfast, Gloria bragged about an upcoming meeting with a designer from New York. "We're growing every quarter." She lied so easily it was like breathing for her. My fingers tightened around my mug. I cleared my throat, kept my voice soft, and said, I used to be an operations manager before I married. If the company needs help, I have ideas. They all paused. For half a second, I let myself believe they might listen. Then Gloria laughed. Not a small laugh. A deep, rich laugh that bounced around the room. We don't take business advice from maids, she said, wiping a pretend tear from her eye. Daniel didn't defend me. Not even a word. He looked down at his plate and cut his eggs as if he hadn't heard anything. More laughter followed. Chairs squeaked. Spoons clicked. I sat still, letting their laughter wash over me like ice water. My jaw ached from clenching it. I forced myself to breathe. They did not know who I was. They had no idea what I knew. And they did not even try to see past the hair, the dress, the simple smile I wore like armor. When I stood up to leave, Gloria waved her hand lazily. Don't worry, dear. Just focus on looking pretty. Leave the business to real Harringtons. I walked away with my heart pounding. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I simply made a promise to myself as I left that room. They would regret ignoring me. Deeply. The Harrington Interiors gala sparkled like a dream built on thin ice. Crystal chandeliers, gold table runners, soft music, and people wearing smiles that cost more than my car. I walked in beside Daniel, but it didn't matter. The family treated me like a shadow that had somehow come in through the service door. Don't stand too close to the VIPs, whispered Daniel's cousin. They might hand you their empty glasses. She giggled with two friends, covering her mouth like it made the joke gentle. I kept my chin up and breathed slowly. I had a simple black dress on, nothing fancy, but it fit me well. I wanted to disappear, yet part of me wanted to stay just long enough to see where this night would bend. Gloria paraded around the room in a red dress that shouted power. When she saw me, she said loudly, At least Elena knows how to dress simply. That's refreshing. People laughed. Their eyes rolled over me like I wasn't worth stopping on. Then I heard a voice behind me say, Excuse me, are you Elena Cruz? I turned to see an older man, tall, calm, with silver hair and a soft smile. He looked at me like I was not invisible at all. I'm Mr. Roth, he said. You saved my company's logistics network 2 years ago. Haven Solutions, right? The room froze. Gloria's smirk slid right off her face. I smiled, small but real. Yes, I said. But that was before I became the maid. The silence that followed tasted sweet. Mr. Roth laughed softly, not at me but with real warmth. I had no idea you were connected to Harrington Interiors, he said. We should talk. You have a sharp mind. The eyes in the room changed. Chairs shifted. Whispers started. For the first time in that mansion world of polished lies, the power tilted toward me. And I felt it. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Mr. Roth. Coffee? I have questions. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to run far from anything connected to the Harringtons. But a bigger part, the part they kept insulting, wanted to step forward. We met at a quiet cafe near the harbor. The air smelled of warm bread and sea salt. Mr. Roth already had 2 coffees waiting. He wasn't like the Harringtons. He didn't talk down or show off. He simply said, Elena, that company is not being led well. I've been thinking of pulling my investment. I froze. He must have seen the confusion on my face because he leaned in and lowered his voice. I overheard things, he said. I know the numbers aren't good, and I know you know it too. I swallowed hard. I saw the papers, I admitted. They're close to collapse. He nodded. I trust your mind. If someone like you led operations, truly led, I would stay. I would support a full restructure. The words hit me like a key clicking into a lock. The idea scared me. Me, leading a whole company? Me, stepping into a role the Harringtons guarded like a treasure chest? But I felt something else too. The seed inside me began to grow. You're asking me to take over? I whispered. I'm asking you, he said gently, to save it. I looked out the window at the moving water. My reflection stared back at me, tired, hurt but strong. I thought of Gloria's words, Daniel's silence, the jokes, the humiliation. I thought of the girl they called the maid. And I made my choice. I'll do it, I said. The beginning of my revenge was soft, simple, and made over coffee. And once the decision was made, the path ahead seemed clear. Very clear. Hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. The idea came to me that night as I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Power hides in papers. If the Harringtons had taught me anything, it was that the people with signatures held all the real control. So I pulled out my marriage documents, the ones Daniel left in a drawer without care. I began reading line by line, my finger tracing each sentence. It was late. The house was quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the AC and my heart speeding up. Then I saw it. A tiny line. A single sentence tucked into a page about tax planning. Mrs. Elena Cruz Harrington holds a 15% shareholder interest for tax distribution purposes. My breath caught. I sat up straight. 15%. My husband, without understanding the legal weight, had listed me as a minor shareholder. Not for love, not for partnership, just to save on taxes. But mistake or not, it gave me a foothold. A legal foothold. I read the line again and whispered the words that changed everything. You gave me power and didn't even know it. A slow smile formed on my face, the kind of smile I had never worn before. My hands tingled. My mind raced. 15% wasn't control yet, but 15% was enough to be heard. Enough to pull files. Enough to make moves. Enough to start. I closed the papers and held them against my chest. I felt the shift inside me. I wasn't just Daniel's wife. I wasn't the maid. I wasn't the quiet shadow in the mansion. I had a weapon they didn't know about, and soon they would learn exactly how sharp it was. With the share papers tucked in my bag, I took my first step into battle. I asked Gloria to gather the board. I told her I had small suggestions for the company. She laughed at me through the phone. Fine, she said. If you insist on embarrassing yourself. The boardroom smelled of old paper and stale pride. Long table, leather chairs, portraits of Harrington men lining the walls, all glaring down like I was trespassing where I didn't belong. I walked in wearing a simple navy dress. Their laughter started before I even sat down. Let's keep this cute and quick, Daniel's brother said. I opened my folder and began presenting. Charts, timelines, expense errors, solutions. I showed them places they were bleeding money. I showed them how to fix it. They didn't even pretend to listen. One man chuckled, saying, maybe she can organize the cleaning staff instead. My cheeks burned, but I kept speaking. I finished my presentation with steady breath. No one clapped. No one thanked me. Gloria finally said, Elena, dear, you should focus on your home. Leave real business to real Harringtons. I closed my folder. I smiled politely. I stood up. Then, walking out of the boardroom, I took out my phone and called Mr. Roth. I'm in, I said, but not under their name. We build a new version, one that doesn't include them. He exhaled like he had been waiting for this. Then let's begin, he said. And just like that, I started the slow and quiet process of taking their empire from the inside. One signature at a time. My plan grew roots in silence. I didn't tell Daniel. I didn't tell anyone. I moved like a shadow through the company records, studying the small shareholders, retired designers, distant cousins, old partners who had long grown tired of the Harrington drama. Most of them owned less than 3%. But 3% here, 2% there, 1.5% hiding in a dusty folder, it all added up. I started calling. Slowly. Quietly. Hello, this is Elena Harrington. Yes, the daughter-in-law. Some laughed. Some sighed. Some said, oh, that family. But when I said I wanted to buy their shares, many didn't even ask why. They were tired. They wanted out. And because no one respected me, no one suspected me either. I was invisible, and invisibility was power. I used my savings from my old job, the account I kept secret, the one Daniel laughed at because he said, wives don't need backup money. Mr. Roth offered help too. Small loans, silent but strong. By the end of 2 weeks, I had bought more than half of the small stakes available. My share jumped from 15% to 35%. And still no one noticed. At home, the Harrington family had dinner parties like nothing was wrong. They wore pearls and linen suits and talked about our successful brand. They talked about trips and deals that didn't exist. They laughed loudly because laughter covered fear well. One night during dessert, Daniel's brother joked, maybe Elena can earn her keep by doing inventory. Everyone roared with laughter. I smiled. A soft, secret smile. No one at that table knew I owned more of the company than all 3 Harrington siblings combined. They didn't know every insult pushed me closer to finishing what I started. They didn't know the maid they mocked was buying their kingdom stone by stone. They didn't know the storm had already begun. And I was the one controlling the wind. The night Daniel found my financial spreadsheets was the night everything cracked open. I had been sitting at my desk in the guest room, reviewing the most recent purchase agreements. Numbers glowed on my screen. My heartbeat was steady. My plan was smooth now, more like a quiet march than a secret crawl. Then Daniel walked in without knocking. His eyes landed on the screen, on the list of shareholders I had bought out, on the transfer records, on my new percentages. His face twisted. "What is this?" I closed the laptop slowly. "It's what your family refused to do, save the company." He stepped closer, voice rising. "You're going behind my family's back? You're buying pieces of our company like some shark?" I stood up. "Your family laughed at my ideas. They refused to listen when I tried to help. That doesn't give you the right to steal." I almost laughed. "Steal? Daniel, you filled out the marriage documents without reading them. You made me a shareholder. I'm simply using the power you gave me." His jaw dropped. Then he stormed out of the room, and I knew exactly where he was going. Straight to Gloria. Minutes later his mother called, her voice sharp enough to slice glass. "You little snake. You dare touch what doesn't belong to you." I said nothing. Her anger grew. "You will sell those shares back to us. Tomorrow. We will give you a fair price." "No," I said simply. Silence crackled on the line, hot and dangerous. "This family made you. We lifted you. You stepped on me," I whispered. "Big difference." She sucked in a breath. "If you don't sell, Elena, if you don't step back, your life with us ends." I hung up before she finished. My hands shook for only a moment. Then the shaking stopped. Because the truth was clear now. They didn't fear losing me. They feared losing their power. And I was already taking it. Piece by piece. Gloria summoned me to the mansion the next morning. Not invited, summoned. Her voice on the phone held that sharp tone rich women use when they're used to people obeying them. "Be here at 10. Don't be late." I arrived on time. The house looked colder than ever. The windows gleamed, but inside everything felt tight, like the walls were listening. Daniel was there too, jaw clenched, pacing. His brother leaned against the fireplace, arms crossed. Gloria sat like a queen waiting to deliver a verdict. "Elena," she began, "this family has tried to welcome you." "A lie." "We tried to guide you." "Another lie. But you have shown nothing but greed." That one almost made me laugh. Daniel stepped forward. "Give the shares back. Mom is right. It's the only way to fix this." I looked at him, really looked, and realized something painful. He never stood beside me. Not once. Not even for a second. Gloria held out a contract. "Sign this and transfer your shares to us. You will be paid. You will be gone. And we can pretend this mistake never happened." I didn't touch the paper. "I won't sign," I said calmly. Gloria's calm mask cracked. "You don't own us. You don't get to make demands in our home." "I don't need to," I said. Her voice dropped, low and poisonous. "Elena, you are nothing. A maid. A gold digger. A leech. Without my son, you are no one." I met her eyes. "You don't own me or this company." The slap came fast and sharp. My cheek stung, but I didn't flinch. I didn't give her the reaction she wanted. Daniel whispered, "Mom," but he did nothing to stop her. I turned and walked out without a single backward glance. My silence echoed louder than any scream. And as the front door closed behind me, I felt the last piece of fear fall away. They thought they had broken me, but all they had done was free me to fight harder. The courier knocked on my door the next morning. A brown envelope. Heavy. Official. I signed for it, hand steady. Inside was a formal notice. The Harringtons were forcing a special shareholder meeting. Their goal was clear: remove me from the board and strip my voting rights. I almost laughed. They thought I still held only 35%. They had no idea what had happened last night. My lawyer, a calm man named Ellis, sat across from me at my kitchen table as I handed him the documents. He flipped through them slowly, eyebrows rising. They think they can force you out, he said. I nodded. Can they? No, he said simply, sliding another paper across the table. Because as of this morning, Elena, you're the majority. I blinked. What? He smiled. The last 2 shareholders accepted your buyout offer at midnight. You now hold 51%. My breath caught. 51%. Enough to run the company. Enough to override every Harrington vote. Enough to end their power legally. Ellis leaned back. They tried to corner you at the exact moment you became unstoppable. I stared at the stack of documents. Everything I had endured, the insults, the cruelty, the humiliations, had all pushed me to this moment. And Gloria had delivered the perfect mistake, forcing a meeting that would expose the truth to everyone at once. I felt my chest rise with something I hadn't felt in weeks. Strength. They wanted war, Ellis said. You're ready. I nodded slowly. Tell them I'll attend. When he left, I sat alone in the quiet kitchen. Sunlight touched the table. The house felt different, lighter somehow. My phone buzzed with angry messages from Daniel, but I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The countdown had begun. And the next time I walked into that boardroom, they would finally see who I really was. The boardroom felt different this time. Not because of the long-wood table polished to a shine, or the cold portrait staring down at me. It was different because for the first time, I wasn't walking in as their puppet, their maid, their joke. I was walking in as the majority shareholder. I wore a gray power suit, clean lines, sharp shoulders, nothing fancy, nothing soft. My heels clicked against the floor like a steady drumbeat. When I opened the door, every head turned. Daniel looked confused. His brother looked angry. Gloria looked ready to spit fire. I took my seat at the head of the table. Gloria scoffed. That seat is for the chair. I folded my hands calmly. I know. Her eyes narrowed. Then move. No, I said. Ellis stood behind me and cleared his throat. Per the updated shareholder registry filed this morning, Mrs. Elena Cruz Harrington now holds 51% ownership of Harrington Interiors. Gasps. Murmurs. A few stunned curses. Gloria's face drained of color. That's impossible. Check the registry, I said softly. Daniel leaned forward, hands shaking as he flipped through the documents Ellis provided. His eyes widened as he counted. Then he looked at me like he'd never seen me before. Elena, you bought all of this. While you were laughing at me, I said. Silence. I stood. As majority shareholder, my first action is to restructure leadership. Daniel's brother jumped up. You can't fire me. You've drained the company for years, I said. You're done. I slid a termination letter across the table. His hands shook as he picked it up. Gloria rose, voice trembling. You can't do this to my family. I met her eyes. Calm, steady, unshaken. You called me the maid, I said. But now you work for me. The room fell silent. And for the first time, I saw fear in their eyes, real fear. The power had shifted, and it wasn't shifting back. The minutes after the meeting felt strange, like the room had shifted its weight. Daniel stared at me as if I had grown wings or horns. His brother paced like a trapped animal. Gloria tried to speak, but her voice cracked. I didn't stay to comfort any of them. I simply collected my papers and walked out, every step steady, controlled, and certain. In the hallway, Daniel finally caught up. Elena, stop. We can fix this. You embarrass them. You embarrass me. I turned, feeling the cool air from the vent brush my cheek. You watched them humiliate me for months. Not once did you stop them. Not once did you say my name. He rubbed his face. I didn't want to fight with my family. And you didn't want to stand with your wife, I said softly. Before he could answer, Ellis handed me another file, financial reports showing where the money had truly gone. Thousands wasted on vacations, designer suits, private parties, all under Daniel's brother's business expenses. My chest tightened with anger. They had mocked me while bleeding the company dry. When we stepped into the elevator, Daniel whispered, almost begging, Can't you slow down? Think about us. The elevator doors closed. I looked straight ahead. Us ended when you let them call me the maid. Later that night, I moved my things out of the mansion. I packed slowly, not because I needed time, but because I wanted to mark each moment, each sweater, each book, each memory, with closure. Rosa, the quiet housemaid, appeared in the doorway. "You deserve better," she whispered. "They never saw your worth." I touched her arm. "Thank you." When I left, I placed my wedding ring on the hallway table. It made a soft sound when it touched the wood, a tiny final goodbye. Outside, the air tasted like freedom, sharp and clean. My phone buzzed with message after message from Gloria and Daniel's brother, filled with threats and warnings. I turned the phone off. My silence would speak louder than anything. And the empire they had built on pride and lies had just begun to crumble under my hands. The fallout hit fast. The moment the Harringtons realized they no longer controlled the company, chaos erupted across the mansion. I heard it from Rosa first. Raised voices, slammed doors, Gloria shouting so loudly the chandelier shook. Daniel stayed silent through most of it, drinking from a glass he kept refilling. I didn't go back. I stayed in my small apartment, the one I had kept after marriage, the one Daniel mocked me for keeping just in case. Now it felt like a safe island in a storm. I could breathe there. I could think. I could plan. The messages from the family came in groups. Some begged. Some threatened. Some pretended to be kind. Gloria sent a long one accusing me of tearing a good family apart. Daniel's brother threatened lawsuits he didn't understand. Daniel sent shorter ones. "Can we talk?" Or "I made a mistake." But I had learned their patterns. Their words were never about love, only control. I made a pot of tea and sat at my desk with the audit papers. Every page showed proof of mismanagement. Thousands wasted, deals ignored, suppliers left unpaid. Harrington Interiors was not broken because of me. It was broken because no one in that family had lifted a hand to fix it. That night, sitting in the quiet, I finally admitted something to myself. I didn't just want revenge anymore. I wanted justice. For the employees. For the clients. For myself. The next morning, I met with Ellis again. He leaned back in his chair and studied me. "You're handling this better than most." "I had practice," I said. "They've been training me for this since the wedding brunch." He smiled. "It's time to show the shareholders the truth." I nodded. "Let's prepare everything." When I stepped outside, the sun was bright, almost too bright. For the first time since joining that family, I felt the future open up, wide and steady. I wasn't done. Not even close. The Harringtons struck first in public, just like I expected. By noon, Gloria had posted a long, dramatic message on social media about how I had betrayed the loving family that took me in. Daniel's brother added comments accusing me of stealing the company from them. They painted themselves as victims, crying that a gold digger had taken advantage of their kindness. The comments poured in fast. "She seems ungrateful." "Poor Daniel. What a snake." At first, my hands trembled. It's one thing to fight in private, another to be hunted online. But then I remembered standing in their kitchen while they laughed at me. I remembered the slap, the humiliation, the silent dinners, the jokes. I took a deep breath and made my own post. A simple one. I didn't steal a company. I saved one. I added screenshots of the financial reports, redacted but clear. I added the audit summary. I added the truth. Then I wrote, "Saving a sinking family business isn't theft, it's survival." Within minutes, messages poured in, not hate but support. Former employees, suppliers, even distant relatives tired of the Harrington pride. This needed to come out. Thank you for exposing the truth. They treated everyone terribly. By evening, my post had more shares than Gloria's. But the twist came from unexpected places. Bloggers reporting the story, business pages picking it up, and one headline that made me laugh. "The maid who became the boss." It stung, but it also felt like a strange badge of honor. At the end of the night, Daniel messaged me again. "Please stop. You're hurting us." I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed back, "You hurt me first." And for once, I didn't delete it. Once the truth went public, I ordered a full internal audit. Not a surface check. Not a polite review. A deep, careful investigation of every dollar, every signature, every report the Harringtons had ever touched. The audit team spread through the office like quiet detectives. I sat in the corner room, my new office, with the blinds half open, watching everything unfold like a slow storm. It didn't take long. By noon, The lead auditor came in with a stack of papers. "Mrs. Harrington," he said quietly, "you're going to want to sit." My stomach tightened. I sat. He laid the papers out one by one. Luxury trips listed as client meetings. Designer clothes marked as uniform expenses. Private chef dinners labeled employee meals. Personal credit card debt covered using company funds. A down payment on Daniel's brother's lake house logged as a supplier advance. I swallowed hard. All this was hidden. "Poorly," he said. "They didn't think anyone would ever check." I stared at the papers. Each one was a piece of truth they had buried under diamonds and pride. Each one was proof that their empire had been hollow long before I walked into their lives. I thought of the staff, the real staff, working late, doing double shifts, while the Harringtons lived like royalty. I thought of how they mocked me for offering help when they were drowning themselves. When the auditor left, I opened the window and let the air in. It smelled of city smoke and new beginnings. By evening, the report was complete, over 100 pages of proof. I sent copies to the board, to the shareholders, and directly to the Harrington family. Minutes later, I received a message from Gloria. "What have you done?" I typed back, "Cleaned up your mess, just like you taught me," and hit send. The investor meeting was packed. Cameras flashed. Screens glowed. The air buzzed with whispers and tension, so thick I could feel it cling to my skin. Every shareholder was there, men and women with stiff suits and sharp gazes. Even Mr. Roth sat in the front row, arms crossed, waiting for the truth to drop like a stone. The Harrington family sat together on the left side of the room. Gloria looked pale, her pearl necklace trembling against her throat. Daniel's brother looked angry. Daniel looked tired, almost hollow. I stepped up to the podium and set the audit folder down. My heart beat once, loud but then steadied. I wasn't afraid anymore. "Thank you for coming," I said. My voice did not shake. "Today we reveal the truth about Harrington Interiors." The first slide came up on the screen, numbers dripping in red. Gasps filled the room. I walked them through each detail, the fake expenses, the hidden debts, the misused funds. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The truth did the shouting for me. Halfway through, Gloria's chair scraped the floor. She stood, trembling. "You're lying. This is revenge. You twisted everything." I turned to her, calm as a still lake. "Integrity isn't inherited," I said. "It's earned." The room fell silent. The next slide showed the lake house payment, then the designer vacation charges, then the hidden loans. People took pictures, took notes, whispered to one another with faces tight with anger. By the end, several investors demanded answers from the Harringtons. Daniel's brother tried to speak, but the board cut him off. One investor said what everyone was thinking. "This company survived because she stepped in, not because of you." When the meeting ended, cameras swarmed around me. Lights flashed. People wanted quotes, comments, reactions. I looked straight into the closest camera and said quietly, "Truth is not revenge. It's release." And the room erupted with applause. Daniel showed up at my apartment 3 days after the investor meeting. I heard the soft knock first, then his voice through the door, quiet, tired, stripped of its usual confidence. "Elena, please. Let me talk to you." I opened the door, just enough to see his face. He looked different. His hair was messy, his eyes red. His shoulders slumped like he'd been carrying the whole weight of a crumbling family on his back. He stepped inside, hands shaking. "I didn't protect you," he said. "I should have. I let them humiliate you. I let them break us. I'm sorry." For a moment, I saw the man I had first fallen in love with, kind, warm, gentle. A man who used to bring me late-night noodles and dance with me in our tiny kitchen. That man felt far away now, buried under years of silence he had chosen. He sat on the edge of my couch, elbows on his knees. "I never thought it would go this far. I never thought they would hurt you like this." I sat across from him, leaving space between us. "Daniel," I said softly, "you didn't just let them hurt me. You stood with them while they did it." He winced. His eyes filled with tears. "I know, and I regret it every second." Silence wrapped around us. Heavy. Thick. He took a deep breath. "Is there any way we can fix this?" For a moment, my heart softened, but then I remembered Gloria's slap. The laughter. The lies. The mockery. The way I cried alone in the guest room. The way my voice had gone unheard over and over. I looked at him, really looked, and saw a man who wanted comfort, not change. I protect myself now, I said. I can't carry us alone. He covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. I'm sorry, he whispered again. I wanted to feel anger. I wanted to feel pity. Instead, I felt nothing but a quiet, aching distance, the kind that cannot be bridged. When he left, I stood at the window and watched him go, knowing this was the moment our marriage finally cracked in two. A small part of me mourned. The rest of me breathed. After the emotional earthquake with Daniel, my focus snapped back to the company. Harrington Interiors wasn't just broken, it needed rebirth. Real rebirth. Not a quick patch, or a shiny apology, but a full rebuild from the roots. Mr. Roth called me early the next morning. It's time, he said. You can't save this company alone. Let's bring in real partners. I met him at a modern office building downtown, where he introduced me to a woman named Ava Stone, a tech CEO known for turning failing businesses into sleek, efficient machines. She walked in wearing sharp black glasses, and a smile that looked like it could slice steel. I've heard a lot about you, she said, shaking my hand firmly. You're the woman who stood up to the Harringtons. Her respect surprised me. I'm just trying to fix what they broke, I said. Ava leaned forward. No. You're building something new. That's leadership. We spent the entire afternoon reviewing the company's systems, or lack of them. Cluttered processes, outdated software, slow responses, a mess hidden under expensive branding. Ava took notes quickly, tapping her pen against the table. You need a full rebrand, she said at last. New structure, new systems, new name, a new name. The words echoed in my chest. Harrington Interiors wasn't my identity. It wasn't a family legacy worth saving. It was a sinking ship held together by pride. But something new, something free from the past, had possibilities. We rename it, Ava continued. Fresh start. Clean slate. I nodded slowly. Elysian Design Group. Mr. Roth smiled. Heavenly. Perfect. And just like that, the company I once served tea for was now mine to reshape, bold, modern, independent. Over dinner, Ava tapped her glass lightly. You know they won't go down quietly, she warned. Especially the mother. I looked out the window at the glowing city below. I don't want quiet, I said. I want truth. Ava grinned. Good. Then let's build something worthy of your name. And that night, for the first time since the wedding, I felt hope bloom like new light. The first attack came quietly, a leak. A soft drip of confidential data onto a small industry blog. At first it was tiny things. Old design drafts, a vendor complaint, a misfiled receipt from years ago. Nothing big, nothing damaging. Just enough to make it seem like Elysian Design Group, still in transition, was sloppy. I knew instantly it wasn't an accident. Someone was trying to sabotage the rebrand. Ava forwarded me the link late at night. See this, she wrote. Someone is poking the bear. Be careful. I closed my laptop and breathed slowly. I knew who hated losing power the most. I knew who saw my rise as a personal insult. Daniel's brother might be sloppy, but Gloria was a razor hiding behind pearls. The next morning, another leak appeared. This one worse. Old emails taken out of context, twisted to look unprofessional. Then a rumor spread that I was planning to fire half the staff. Fear buzzed through the office like a sick fever. I didn't panic. Instead, I asked our IT head to trace the digital footprints. It didn't take long. When he came into my office with the report, he set it down gently. The leaks came from an IP address tied to the Harrington mansion. My stomach tightened. Daniel's brother? He shook his head. No. The access permissions used were Gloria's. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the truth settle heavy in my bones. Gloria wasn't trying to save the company. She was trying to destroy me. But she had forgotten something important. I was no longer the scared bride carrying champagne. I wasn't the quiet woman hiding tears in the guest room. I picked up my phone and called Ellis. We pressed charges, I said. Not loud. Quietly. Legally. Ellis didn't hesitate. On it. Hours later, the paperwork was filed. identity misuse, breach of privacy, attempted sabotage. All clean. All silent. All legal. As I left the office that night, Ava clapped me on the shoulder. You handled that like a CEO. No, I corrected, stepping into the elevator. I handled it like someone who finally sees the truth. And that truth, Gloria Harrington wasn't done. But neither was I. The journalist found me on a Wednesday morning, right as I finished reviewing contractor bids. She stood in the lobby, tall, sharp eyes, notebook in hand. Mrs. Harrington, she said, I'd like to talk about what really happened inside that family. I almost sent her away. I had enough chaos, enough wounds. Public attention felt dangerous. But something inside me whispered, tell the truth. Not to hurt them, but to free yourself. We sat in a quiet cafe. She ordered black coffee. I ordered tea. She laid her recorder on the table, but looked at me, not it. People think you stole a company, she said. But that's not the real story, is it? I swallowed. No. And slowly, carefully, I told her everything. Not the cruelest pieces, not the painful details that still burned, but the truth that mattered. The disrespect, the ignored warnings, the hidden debts, the audit, the leaks, the rebrand. When I finished, she leaned back. You know this will go viral, right? I shook my head. I don't want revenge. I want clarity. 2 days later, the article went live. From Maid to CEO, the woman who saved a family business. My face was on the cover, simple and real. The story was honest, painful but fair. It didn't paint me as a saint. It didn't paint them as devils. It simply showed the truth. A woman underestimated rising to lead. It spread fast. Thousands of shares. Hundreds of messages. Other women sent stories of their own battles. Mothers, workers, wives, daughters who had been dismissed, mocked, silenced. There were tears in my eyes as I read them. Ava texted me, welcome to the spotlight. You earned it. But not everyone cheered. Gloria posted a furious response, calling me a liar. Daniel's brother demanded a retraction. And Daniel sent me one message. I never knew you were this strong. For the first time, I didn't cry when I read his words. I simply whispered, I always was. They just never saw it. Gloria showed up at my office on a rainy Thursday. She didn't call. She didn't text. She walked right in, escorted by security but refusing to leave. Her red coat was soaked. Her eyes were hollow. Her lipstick was smudged, like she had been crying or yelling or both. Elena, she said, voice rough, I need to talk to you. I dismissed the staff and closed the glass door. She stood in the middle of the room, hands shaking, trying to keep her chin high. But the queen-like air she always carried was gone. Her pride looked cracked. I lost everything, she whispered. The company, the respect, the home. People talk about us now. They mock us. Our name is in the dirt. Are you happy? I swallowed hard. I had waited so long to see her face without arrogance. Now that the moment was here, it didn't feel like victory. It felt heavy. No, I said quietly. I'm not happy. She blinked, surprised. But I am free. Her mouth trembled. You ruined us. You ruined yourselves, I corrected. I just stopped letting you ruin me. She grabbed the back of a chair for balance. You think you're better than us. No, I said. I think I'm done with you. Silence stretched long between us. Gloria wiped her cheek, smearing her makeup. Daniel said you might help. Said you still cared. I looked at her, at the woman who had slapped me, mocked me, laughed at me, belittled me. The woman who tried to destroy the company rather than let me lead it. I care about myself, I said. That's new for me. Her shoulders sagged. I hope you heal, I told her softly. But you won't use me to do it. For the first time ever, Gloria looked small. Just a tired woman who clung too tightly to a name that couldn't save her. She turned to leave, pausing at the door. You think you won, she whispered. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I didn't win, I said. I survived. And I let her walk out into the rain. Daniel served the divorce papers on a quiet morning, slipping them under my apartment door like a secret he was afraid to hand me face to face. I had just finished watering my plants when I saw the envelope with his handwriting. My heart dipped for only a moment before steadying itself. I knew this was coming. Inside were the documents, crisp and cold. But what surprised me wasn't the divorce. It was the note he had clipped to the top. "I don't want this," he wrote. "I just want you back. I miss the old US. The old us. The version where I was quiet. Where I stayed small. Where I bent myself around his family so he wouldn't have to choose." I sat at my kitchen table, hands flat on the papers, letting the silence settle. A year ago I would have cried. Now I felt something different. A gentle sadness, not a heartbreak. A sadness for what could have been if he had stood beside me sooner. Hours later, we met in a lawyer's office, the walls lined with certificates and thick books. Daniel looked nervous, tapping his knee, twisting his ring. When I walked in, his eyes softened. "Elena," he said, voice low. "I didn't file those. Mom did. I came to stop this. Can we talk? Please." I sat across from him, calm. "Talking won't change who you let me become in that house." He leaned forward. I know I failed you. I want to fix it." But I had already signed the papers. His face changed. Shock, pain, confusion all tangled together. "You already?" I nodded slowly and slid something across the table, a check. His share of the marriage assets. "Clean. Fair, final." "We're even now," I said gently. No anger. No revenge. Just freedom. He swallowed hard, staring at the check like it was a door closing. "Elena," he whispered, "I didn't deserve you." For a moment, I almost reached for his hand. But I didn't. I stood, picked up my bag, and walked out before the past could pull me back. I wasn't his maid. I wasn't his shield. I was done. 2 days after the divorce was finalized, Rosa came to see me. She stood at my office door, wringing her hands the way she did when she was nervous. I hurried toward her, surprised she had found the courage to come into the building on her own time. "Elena," she said softly, "I hope it's okay that I came. I wanted to thank you." I blinked. "Thank me?" She nodded, eyes warm. "The new pay scale you put in place at the mansion? It helped us. A lot. And the respect you showed us, no lady in that house ever did that." Her words tightened my chest. I pulled her into my office, where she sat carefully at the edge of the chair, like she didn't want to wrinkle anything. She looked around with wide eyes. The view, the desk, the soft lights. I realized she had never been in a space that treated her like she belonged. She told me how the staff felt seen for the first time, how the Harringtons used to treat them like part of the furniture, how simple kindness had changed everything. "You gave us dignity," she said. "I wanted you to know that, in case no one else says it." I swallowed hard. Praise was rare for me in that family. To hear it now, from someone who had seen the worst of them, felt like sunlight breaking through old clouds. Rosa hesitated before adding, "They always thought you were weak, but we knew you weren't. You held yourself gentle but strong. Stronger than any of them." I felt tears prick my eyes, not from pain, but from something softer, something healing. When she stood to leave, she touched my arm. "And Elena, don't ever think your revenge was only about you. It helped people like us too." Her words stayed with me long after she walked away. For the first time, I realized my fight hadn't just destroyed their power. It had given others a voice they never had. Revenge wasn't just justice. It was protection. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and tension. People whispered as I walked in, some curious, some sympathetic, some shocked that the once quiet Harrington daughter-in-law was now the woman dragging the powerful family into court. But I didn't look at them. My eyes stayed forward. The judge entered. Papers shuffled. Lawyers murmured. Gloria sat across from me, pale and exhausted, her pearl earrings trembling. Daniel's brother looked ready to explode. Daniel himself sat behind them, shoulders slumped, fingers twisting nervously. Ellis placed the final stack of evidence on the table, audit reports, forged records, the leaked documents traced to Gloria's IP address. Everything clean, everything organized, everything undeniable. Gloria's lawyer tried to argue sabotage, misunderstanding, emotional distress. But each claim crumbled under Ellis's calm, steady explanations. Each page of proof felt like a stone being placed gently on a scale, and the weight grew heavier on their side. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't make a speech. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, I protected the company when they wouldn't. I protected myself when they wouldn't. And I won't apologize for that. For a moment, the courtroom was silent. Finally, the judge spoke, firm and clear. All claims against Mrs. Elena Cruz Harrington are dismissed. The audit findings stand. The financial misuse falls solely on the defendants. As majority owner, she retains full legal control of the company. Gloria gasped like the air had been punched out of her. Daniel's brother cursed under his breath. Daniel closed his eyes, grief settling into his bones. It was over. Completely, legally, fully over. As we left the courtroom, Ellis put a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Congratulations," he said. "You didn't just win. You proved who really had integrity." Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. I walked past all of them. Not with pride, with peace. Because justice wasn't loud. Justice was quiet. And it was finally mine. The launch day of Elysian Design Group felt like stepping into a new life. The showroom gleamed with light, warm, modern, open. Sunlight poured through tall windows and bounced off soft woods, clean lines and bright fabrics. Sustainable materials, fresh ideas, real structure. Everything the old company had refused to become. People gathered outside long before the doors opened. Reporters, clients, influencers, designers, even former staff members who wanted to see the woman who had turned chaos into creation. Ava stood by my side in a sleek navy suit, grinning. "You did this," she whispered. "No," I said. "We did." Camera flashes greeted us as we stepped onto the small red carpet rolled out front. A reporter leaned forward, voice crisp. "Elena, how does it feel to launch your own rebrand after everything that happened with the Harringtons?" I smiled gently. It feels like turning a page that needed to be turned for a long time. Inside, the music played softly while people explored the space, touching fabric swatches, admiring handcrafted pieces, asking questions. It felt real, not forced. Honest, not polished lies. Around noon, Mr. Roth arrived, walking with the slow grace of someone who admired what he saw. "This is beautiful," he said. "You made something lasting." "Thank you," I replied, "for believing in me before anyone else did." He chuckled. I only recognized what the others were too blind to see. Later, during the ribbon-cutting ceremony, I stood at the front with Ava and Mr. Roth. The crowd quieted. Cameras pointed our way. My heart beat steady. I lifted the scissors and said, "To fresh starts, honest work, and new beginnings." The ribbon fell. Applause filled the room, loud and warm and real. And in that moment, watching people celebrate something I had built with my own hands and my own courage, I understood something important. I hadn't just rebuilt a company. I had rebuilt myself. The interview request came from a major network, one that rarely spoke to small business owners, let alone scandal-soaked ex-daughters-in-law. The producers said they wanted the real story of the woman who rose from Maid jokes to CEO. I agreed, not for fame, but because telling the truth felt like claiming my final piece of power. The studio lights were bright but warm, the kind that made the world look clean. The interviewer, a kind woman with steady eyes, greeted me with a smile. "Ready?" she asked. "Yes," I said. And I was. We began with simple questions, my background, my old job, how I met Daniel. But soon she leaned in and asked the question everyone wanted. "What made you strong enough to stand up to the Harringtons?" I inhaled slowly. "Knowing my worth," I said, "even when others didn't." She nodded. "And being called the Maid, how did that feel?" I looked straight into the camera. "It felt like a mirror," I said. "They saw what they wanted, not who I was." So I stopped letting them decide my reflection. Her eyebrows lifted. "And now you run the entire company they once controlled. What do you want people to learn from this?" I held my breath for a moment, then spoke the words that had carried me through the darkest days. No one gets to define your value. Not family, not critics, not anyone. The room went silent. Then the interviewer whispered, "Powerful." When the episode aired, clips went viral instantly. People quoted my lines. Women shared their own stories. Even teenagers posted edits with my speech over music. The top comment under the video read, "She didn't just win, she healed." And for once, I felt that truth settle inside me like steady light. I hadn't fought for revenge alone. I fought to reclaim myself. And I had. Daniel came back into my life in the most unexpected way, through a job application. I was reviewing internal transfers when I saw his name buried in a stack of forms. Daniel Harrington, logistics assistant. My stomach twisted. The job was entry-level, nothing like the positions he once bragged about. But there it was in clean print, typed with shaky pride. Later that afternoon, he showed up in the lobby. His clothes were simple now. No more tailored suits, no more polished shoes. He looked smaller somehow, humbled. When I stepped out of the elevator, he stood slowly, as if afraid I would walk past him. "Elena," he said softly. "I know you saw the application." I nodded. "I did." He swallowed. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I just need work. I'm trying to start over." For a moment I saw pain, real pain, written across his face. Not the pain of losing luxury, but the pain of losing who he thought he was. He glanced down at his hands. "I spent so many years thinking I was better than everyone. But you were the only one who ever built something real. And I never saw it." His voice cracked. "I didn't deserve you." I didn't answer right away. We stood in the quiet lobby, the soft hum of lights around us. Finally, I motioned toward a small bench. We sat, leaving space between us. "Daniel," I said, "you hurt me. You stood with people who mocked me. But you're right, you're trying now. And trying matters." He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. "But," I continued gently, "this job won't be special. You'll start at the bottom. You'll take orders from managers younger than you. And you'll earn your way up on your own." He nodded quickly. "I will. I'm ready." I studied him, the way his shoulders lowered, the way he wasn't pretending anymore. This was the first honest version of him I'd seen in years. "Then welcome to Elysian," I said softly. He closed his eyes for a moment, like he'd waited for those words. But even then, even as I hired him, I knew something important. He was beginning his journey, and I had already finished mine. Daniel's first week at Elysian was humbling, painfully so. I didn't watch him often, but word traveled. He arrived early, stayed late, and worked quietly in the logistics department sorting boxes and reviewing delivery schedules. The job was simple, steady, nothing like the glamorous meetings he once bragged about attending with his family. One afternoon, I walked past the storage room and saw him stacking chairs with 2 interns. Sweat ran down his forehead. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, and he wasn't complaining. He wasn't demanding special treatment. He was just working. He caught sight of me and froze, wiping his hands nervously. "Elena," he said out of breath. "I didn't expect." "I was checking inventory," I said lightly. He nodded, awkward. "I'm still learning. But it feels good. Real." For a moment, we stood in the quiet hum of warehouse sounds, printers, footsteps, boxes shifting. He looked at me differently now, not like a wife he expected to stay quiet, but like a leader he respected. "I didn't know," he whispered suddenly. "I didn't know how much you were capable of. I didn't know how strong you were." I met his eyes. "You didn't want to know." He nodded, shame filling the space between us. "I see that now." Later, during a team meeting, I watched him take notes, asking smart questions, listening instead of talking over others. He was no longer the man who thought power came from last names. Work was teaching him the truth. Power came from effort. At the end of the day, he lingered near my office door. "Thank you," he said, "for giving me a chance to rebuild." I gave a small smile, professional, not romantic. "You're earning it, Daniel." "Not me." He swallowed, understanding. "Elena, I hope one day you can forgive me." I didn't respond. I wasn't ready. But watching him grow, even a little, felt like closure gently forming, slow, steady earned. And for the first time, I realized something important. Revenge had changed him. But healing was changing me. I found Gloria's letter in my mailbox on a quiet Saturday morning. The envelope was cream-colored, the handwriting familiar, controlled, elegant, proud. For a moment, I considered throwing it away unopened. But curiosity tugged at me. Inside was a long, emotional apology. "Elena, I'm sorry for everything," she wrote. "For my words, my actions, my pride. I was wrong. You were good for Daniel. You were good for the company. My throat tightened until I reached the last paragraph. You have done well for yourself, she wrote. But remember, no matter what you build, you will always be beneath us socially. Some lines never fade. I froze. My jaw clenched. There it was, the true Gloria. Sweet apology, wrapped around a poisoned root. She didn't want peace. She wanted me to bow, to feel small, to accept a place beneath her feet. I folded the letter slowly and calmly, the same way she had folded her insults over the years. I walked to the kitchen, turned on the burner, and held the paper over the flame. It burned fast, orange, then black, then nothing. The smoke curled upward like the last trace of her control over me. As the ashes fell into the sink, I whispered, I don't owe peace to people who use apologies as weapons. I wiped my hands and stood straighter than I had in years. Later that afternoon, I walked through the Elysian showroom. The furniture gleamed softly. My staff moved confidently through the space. The air felt warm, safe mine. Ava spotted me and grinned. You look lighter, she said. I burned something, I replied. She laughed. Good therapy? The best. That night, as I sat on my couch with a cup of tea, I realized something important. Gloria's words no longer hurt. They didn't stick to my skin or twist my heart. They were empty now, powerless. I wasn't beneath her. I wasn't beneath anyone. I had climbed out of the shadows she tried to keep me in, and I wasn't going back. The idea for the Maid to Manager Foundation came to me during a staff meeting. I was reviewing proposals when Rosa's words replayed in my mind. You gave us dignity. I couldn't shake them. They lingered like a spark waiting to catch fire. I spent that night on my laptop, researching programs for women in service jobs, cleaners, caretakers, hotel workers, servers. There were almost none. No training for management. No scholarships. No pathways upward. They were invisible, the way I once felt in the Harrington mansion. I knew then what I needed to build next. Within 2 weeks, I had a plan. A real foundation, not just charity, but opportunity. Classes on leadership, scholarships for business courses, workshops for financial literacy, partnerships with companies willing to hire women who wanted to rise. I announced it internally first. My staff clapped. Some cried. Even Ava blinked rapidly like she was holding back emotion. This, she whispered, is the Elena I'm proud to follow. News outlets picked up the story fast. CEO creates bridge for women in service roles. Messages poured in from women across the country. Some wanted training. Some wanted to volunteer. Some simply wrote, "Thank you for seeing us." At the launch event, Rosa stood in the front row holding a small bouquet of flowers. When I finished my speech, she hugged me tight. "You're changing lives," she whispered. "Not just yours. All of ours." Her words filled something inside me I didn't know was still empty. Later, when I stood alone on the stage looking at the banner reading Maid to Manager, I felt a quiet warmth settle inside my chest. I had taken the worst insult they ever gave me, Maid, and turned it into a ladder for others to climb. This foundation wasn't revenge. It was legacy. The kind built from heart, not hate. And I knew Margaret, my mother, would have been proud. The Harrington mansion went up for sale on a bright Monday morning. The listing spread across real estate sites like wildfire, historic home with luxury finishes. I stared at the photos longer than I expected. The chandelier I once cried under. The dining table where they mocked me. The staircase where I whispered, never again. A part of my past frozen in glittering images. A week later, my lawyer called. "The sellers accepted your offer." My heart thudded. They don't know it's me, right? He chuckled. "You purchased through the shell company, just like you asked. They have no idea." I swallowed a knot of emotion. Set the closing date. The day came quietly. Paper signed, hands shaken, keys handed to me in a small envelope. When I stepped onto the front porch, the house looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I had grown. Gloria was there. She had insisted on being present for the closing, not knowing who the buyer was. When she saw me step forward to collect the envelope, her face drained of all color. "Elena," she whispered, you bought our home." "No," I said gently. "I bought my investment." Her lips trembled. "Why would you do this?" I stepped closer, calm, strong, whole. Because you once told me I'd never belong in this house, I said. So now, I own it. She stared at me, stunned, helpless, the power she clung to slipping through her fingers like sand. I turned toward the door and ran my hand across the carved wood. Looks like I'll finally get to clean this place, I said with a small smile. Out! Her breath hitched, a soft, broken sound. I walked inside without looking back. The house was quiet, empty, waiting. Not full of ghosts, but full of space I could claim, reshape, or even sell in peace. It wasn't a trophy. It was closure. Deep, final, deserved. The night of the charity gala came fast, faster than I expected. The mansion, now empty of the Harrington name, glowed with soft golden lights spilling from every window. It didn't feel like their home anymore. It felt like a new beginning draped in elegance and quiet power. My team fluttered around, placing arrangements, checking lighting, polishing last details. Guests arrived in sleek cars, stepping onto the long walkway lined with candles. I wore a simple but striking white dress, clean, modern, strong. A symbol of everything they once said I could never be. Inside, the rooms were transformed. The old portraits had been removed. The cold marble floors were warmed with soft rugs and gentle lighting. Every piece of furniture was curated from Elysian's newest collection, sustainable wood, soft fabrics, artful curves. It was beauty with purpose. As the guests admired the space, whispers rippled through the room. Isn't this the Harrington mansion? She bought it. She looks incredible. The charity auction raised funds for the Maid to Manager Foundation, and the energy felt hopeful, not stuffy, not pretentious, not cruel. People clapped, laughed, mingled. It was everything the Harrington gatherings never were. Near the dessert table, Rosa approached me shyly. She wore a dress I had helped her pick, deep green, soft and flowing. You did all this, she whispered, eyes shining. You changed this house. No, I said gently. I freed it. Just then, one of the hired servers walked past with a tray of champagne. A young woman with kind eyes offered me a glass and smiled nervously. For a moment, I saw myself in her, the girl who once carried champagne for people who didn't see her humanity. I accepted the glass. Thank you. Her smile widened, grateful that I had spoken to her like an equal. As I mingled, guests asked about the furniture, the foundation, the future of Elysian. Every word felt like stitching a wound closed. Not once did I think of Gloria or Daniel. Toward the end of the night, Ava raised her glass. To Elena, she said, the woman who turned insults into power and pain into purpose. The room erupted in applause, and I stood there, breathing in a moment I had created, not from revenge, but from becoming everything I was meant to be. The awards ceremony for Company of the Year was held in a grand hall downtown, all tall ceilings and echoing footsteps. When I arrived, camera flashes lit up like small fireworks. I used to shy away from attention. Now I walked forward steadily, not needing anyone beside me to feel strong. Ava joined me on the carpet, leaning close. Ready to win. I laughed softly. I already won. Inside, the room buzzed with designers, business leaders, and investors. I recognized faces from years of watching meetings from the edges. People who once ignored me now crossed the floor just to shake my hand. Elena, what you did with Elysian is inspiring. You turned a dying company into the future of design. You're the reason small businesses believe again. Hearing those words still felt surreal, but they also felt right. When the announcer stepped onto the stage and introduced the final award, the lights dimmed. My heart thumped slow and deep. And the winner, the announcer said, for Company of the Year, Elysian Design Group. The applause hit me like a warm wave as I walked to the stage. I accepted the sleek glass award, cool and heavy in my hands. The host leaned close. What would you like to say? The mic is yours. I gazed at the audience, hundreds of faces, some familiar, some new. And then the words came easily. This award isn't just for me, I said. It's for every woman who was ever underestimated, every worker who was ever overlooked, every voice that was once quiet but still kept going. The crowd listened, still and attentive. They called me the Maid, I continued softly. But I always knew my worth. Now I help other women see theirs. A standing ovation rose like a wave. Ava wiped her eyes. Mr. Roth clapped with proud, steady hands. Later, as the celebration swirled around me, I held the award to my chest for a moment and smiled. This wasn't revenge. This was rebirth. And it was beautiful. Daniel showed up after the ceremony, waiting outside beside the soft glow of streetlights. His tie was loose, his hair wind-tossed. He held his hands in front of him like he wasn't sure whether to reach for me or keep his distance. "Elena," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I nodded once. We walked to a quieter corner of the plaza. People passed by, laughing, congratulating one another, but the air around us felt still. "I watched your speech," Daniel said, his voice thick. "You were incredible. Strong. Confident. Everything I should have seen from the start." I stared ahead at the fountain, its water glowing under blue lights. He swallowed hard. "I didn't protect you. I know that now. I thought keeping peace with my family was the same as keeping peace with you. But all I did was choose silence when you needed a voice. I listened quietly, my hands clasped in front of me." He continued, "Working at Elysian, starting from the bottom, it's taught me more in a month than I learned in my whole life. I see people differently. I see you differently. And I'm sorry. Truly." A small breeze lifted my hair. I finally turned to him. "Daniel," I said softly, "I believe you're trying. And I'm glad you're learning. But love isn't about learning someone's worth after you lose them. It's about protecting their worth when they're right beside you." His eyes glistened. "I didn't deserve you." "No," I whispered. "You didn't. But I hope you've learned to see worth differently now." He let out a shaky breath, nodding slowly. "Are we done forever?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he looked like a man finally understanding the cost of his choices. Before he walked away, he whispered, "I hope you find someone who sees you the first time." I watched him fade into the crowd, feeling no anger, no sadness, only peace. Some endings were not tragedies. Some endings were doors opening. I returned to my childhood home on a warm afternoon, the kind where sunlight made everything look softer. The little house hadn't changed much. The same cracked driveway, the same uneven fence, the same rose bush my mother planted that refused to die, no matter how many winters passed. Stepping inside felt like stepping back in time. The scent was the same. Old wood, lavender cleaner, and memories. On a shelf in the garage, my mother's cleaning supplies still hung neatly. The mop with the wooden handle. The worn yellow gloves. The small bucket she used for every job, big and small. I walked over and touched the handle of the mop. I remembered being a little girl, watching my mother scrub floors with soft humming in her voice. She used to say, "Work is work, mi hija. But dignity comes from how you carry yourself, not what you carry." I smiled, eyes warming. She would have laughed at the Harringtons calling me a maid. She would have said, "Better a maid with honor than a queen with ego." As I stood there, I felt the past and present pull together like a bowstring, not painful but steady. I whispered, "Mama, I made it." Back inside, I walked through the small living room, remembering the nights we shared cheap meals but plenty of laughter. No fancy chandeliers, no crystal glasses, just warmth, love, truth. On the old couch, I sat quietly and let myself breathe. Really breathe. I wasn't the frightened bride anymore. I wasn't the mocked outsider. I wasn't the maid they pretended I was. I was Elena Cruz, and I carried both worlds inside me, the humble beginnings and the powerful present, without shame. As I stood to leave, I took my mother's yellow gloves. Not to use, but to keep. A reminder of where I came from and how far I had climbed. When I locked the door behind me, I felt something important settle in my heart. I wasn't running from the past anymore. I was walking forward with it. The final montage of my journey played in my mind like a quiet movie as I walked through the Elysian showroom, the sunlight warm, the air filled with soft music and hope. My staff chatted, smiling. New clients browsed. The space felt alive, like a dream shaped into wood and light. I stood at the center of it all, breathing slowly. This was where the story ended. Not with shouting. Not with courtroom battles. Not with revenge that burned everything down. But with peace. I walked to the front windows and watched people passing outside, going about their day. None of them knew the storms I had survived. None knew the weight I had carried. And that was okay. Because surviving wasn't about applause. It was about becoming myself again. I closed my eyes and thought of glorious insults, Daniel's silence, the humiliation at the wedding brunch, all the moments that once crushed me. Then I thought of the investor meeting, the audit, the company launch, the charity gala, the award ceremony, the new foundation, all the moments that rebuilt me. Piece by piece, choice by choice, heart by heart, a quiet voice rose inside me, strong, sure, steady, the same one that had carried me through everything. They called me the Maid, I whispered. My reflection stared back at me from the glass. Calm, confident, whole. I became the boss. I touched the window gently. And the only thing I cleaned up. I smiled. Not cruel, not bitter, but free. Was their mess. I stepped away from the window and walked deeper into the showroom, ready for the next chapter of my life. One filled with purpose, dignity, and the strength I had earned through every trial. Roll credits. And cue the next beginning. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments.